Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Fr.TEDTalks. Today, I want to talk about a topic that a lot of priests talk about, and a lot of lay assistants and youth workers and leaders within the church speak about, and that is whether more programs or really good programs in the church will actually save us. Will programs in the church save us? And the reason why I'm tackling this topic today because oftentimes when we speak with church leadership, and that includes the priests, the boards, and other people who are in leadership positions within the church, we are often ending up speaking a lot about programs. What kind of programs can we have in the church? How many programs do we have? How many people do we have in those programs? Are people coming to those programs? What new programs can we come up with? What other programs can we get rid of? Programs, right? And I think that this is problematic, and it's problematic for a couple of reasons. Number one is that the church is a family, number one. And as a family, it's relational. Christ did not start a program. Christ didn't even start an institution. He founded his church, ecclesia, which means a people who are called out, a chosen people. And he founded this kind of family of people. And it was all relational. Everything that he taught us had to do with relationship. Relationship with him, relationship with God in general, and relationship with one another. Everything that he speaks about in the Gospels is relational theology. He speaks about how we are to interact with other human beings. And so Christ's ministry is all based on building relationships with the apostles that he brought around him, and he brought close to him, and he trained them, and then he sent them out, and they went out and they formed other relationships and founded other churches, right? They didn't found programs. And so a lot of times what happens is that we as Orthodox Christians, we have a calling to be like Christ in the world, to be the light of the world. And this is a very, very difficult thing because it involves us transforming ourselves. We have to transform ourselves first. We have to metamorphose, transfigure ourselves through the sacraments, through the spiritual life of the church, so that we become little Christs. We become saints. And when we do that, this is the way we attract other human beings towards the church, right? We don't attract people with pamphlets. We don't attract people even with these types of videos that I'm making right now. They're good, they're supplementary, but they are not the point. The main reason that we attract people is by our own example. Now, because we're flawed human beings and we fail a lot of times, we don't do what we're supposed to do. We don't go to church as often. We don't pray as much. We don't fast. We don't, a lot of times, take our faith as seriously as we should. And so we are not transfiguring ourselves, or rather, we do not put as much effort into transfiguring ourselves. And because of that, we tend to become like everybody else. We look like everybody else in society. We don't differentiate from other human beings in society. And so because we don't do this, it becomes frustrating for us because we lack the ability to attract people towards Christ because we don't live a Christ-centered life ourselves. And so what is the alternative, or what is the substitute for this authenticity that Christ calls us to live? Well, we create programs. We create programs because we believe that if we have a really, really good program that is administered very, very well by a good administrator, then that will replace the lack of Christ-centered lives and Christian examples that we do not exude within our own lives. If we have a really good youth program with really fun programs to fill up the time of our youth, if we have a really, really good philanthropic program in our church and we help a lot of poor people, this will be good. It will get people engaged. If we have a really good YouTube channel, or if we have a really good, Bible study, people will come and they'll find it interesting and fascinating, and that will bring people in. But all these things, although they may help the church and they may be expressions of what the church is, none of them can replace actually living the faith. And that starts here. It starts not only here in the altar, in the church, but it starts with us. And so programs have to be secondary to living the faith, right? Another point is that programs in themselves are finite. They end, right? No programs run forever, right? Programs, for example, a youth program. Well, a youth program is catered towards a specific, age demographic. Youth, let's say from a young age until maybe their late teens or early 20s. And then once they're done and they become adults, well, they're not in the youth program anymore. Now we have to come up with another program to keep them involved in the church, as opposed to them just being, active, Orthodox, faithful Christians, right? And so that program stops, and then there's another program, and then there's another program. The programs are always finite. They always have a limit, but the church has no limit. The spiritual life has no limit. Some programs are spearheaded by, let's say, an active priest or an active council or a charismatic deacon or a charismatic youth leader. But all those people inevitably will move on with their lives, or maybe they get older or they pass away, and then those programs end as well. But the church is forever, regardless of which priest comes into your parish, or which council is running the parish, the administration of the parish, or who is the president of the youth group, or who is the president of the Fr.TEDTalks, or who is the president of whatever group or program. All these things are transitory, but Christ is forever. And so we should seek first to become Christ-like, to mentor our people in the church, the older people, to mentor the younger people within the church, to help them, to participate, to sacrifice for them, to show them the love of Christ, and to be able to serve Christ within the community, but to be active members of the church first for themselves. And that is the only way that the church will actually grow and will actually bring others into connection and into communion with Christ. That's the most important thing. And so programs will not save us. Programs are secondary or even sometimes tertiary. They are not the main thing. And the more emphasis that we give on programs and the less emphasis we give on the actual spiritual life of the church, the liturgical life of the church, then I think we will see an eroding of our communities. And we see that in some places where programs, will start losing people, and we start kind of losing the interest of people. We don't know why. It's because the spiritual heart of the community is not there. And so we have to always think that first it's Christ, first it's the spiritual life, it is participation in the sacraments, it is the deep, spiritual prayer life and connection with the sacraments, and then everything else flows from that. That is the order of priority. This is the way Christ interacted with his apostles. This is the way the apostles interacted with the other communities. This is the way saints of the church interact. The reason why we remember saints, the reason why we remember holy people, the reason why we remember charismatic, gerondes and mothers and all these other people within the church that, made an impression on our lives is because they were charismatic people themselves. They emanated the light of Christ into the world. They didn't create programs. St. Porphyrios didn't have a program. St. Paisius did not have a program. St. Maximus the Confessor did not have a program. St. Basil the Great did not have a program. They simply lived the gospel. And so, I always love this beautiful quote from Metropolitan Anthony Bloom, who will probably be canonized as saint at some point. He was a very, very holy man. And he said that we should live our lives in such a way that if the gospels were lost, people could know what they were saying by watching us. And that's a very, very powerful statement, right? We should be living the gospel so in a way that even if we didn't have scripture, people would know us by our fruits. They would know us, they would know Christ through us and the way that we live. This is all that I wanted to talk about today, that let's not focus only on programs. Let's focus first on Christ, first on ourselves, on becoming Christ-like, and then everything else will fall into place. Till next time, this is Father Ted saying, take care and God bless.